Good afternoon. Welcome to my presentation today. We'll be talking about from product recommendation to offer performance, how we at Airmiles drive end-to-end marketing solution for our partners. Real quick, agenda, intro, talk about precision, talk about how we measure those campaigns, part of precision, the methodology, a bit about control groups, how do we show the results, and then the evolution of that result sharing solution, Panorama. A bit about myself. My name is Maxime Guy, Associate Director, Partner Analytics at Airmiles. I'm leading a team supporting our clinic portfolios of partners, ranging from a broad set of vertical from fuel, home improvement, pharma, and liquor. Our mandate is really, my mandate and team mandate is to support sponsored marketing and loyalty objective with data and analytics. It goes from a range from good old reportings all the way up to building and deploying model, whether those are segments, predictive models, and whatnot. But also a bit about Airmiles. Some of you might not be familiar with the program. So we're Canada's most recognized loyalty program for more than 2 decades. Nearly 11 million collectors. That's 2/3 of Canadian household. It's 1,000 time a minute in terms of card swipe. Reward is redeemed every 2 seconds. We have 300 leading Canadian brand and partner ranging from a broad range again of vertical, from specialty retail, groceries, financial, fuel, home improvement, to name a few, Sobeys, Shell, BMO, Staples. We also have Metro Ontario, Kent, and in Atlantic, to name a few. So that, thanks to all of that, thanks to all those swipes and all those Canadian households being part of the program, that's generate a lot of data, on which I'll showcase to you how we further leverage this information to further be relevant and providing good offers to our collectors. Well, how do we do so? How do we capture all this information, and how do we get there? Well, it's thanks to over 100 and plus associates supporting Airmiles and its partner across a complete suite of expertise. So we have our analytic and insight department, but within that department, there's multiple teams working collaboratively to get those insights out of the door, to get those products out of the doors. It's partner analytics, the team in which I'm part, data science, which helps build a lot of our more advanced analytics and techniques. Program analytic, that work in looking at the program Airmiles itself. Reward analytics, I think it speaks for itself. Our data team, without them, we wouldn't be able to do nothing with the data. So they're really there in building our data warehouse pipelines and making sure we have a clean, as accurate as possible and as clean as possible data available to us. And data product, which thanks to with the help of data science and data, the data team are able to stand up product that we can then deploy and leverage across our partners. Not only myself are going to be speaking this today throughout the conference days. I got colleagues from data science and colleagues from data products are also going to have a presentation throughout the next 2 days. And if that interests you, we do have opportunities from ranging from the associate director all the way to co-op, as you can see on the screen. So please just reach out, take a screen grab. I'll wait a second. There you go. And go apply. And if you have any question, don't hesitate to reach out to me or any of my colleagues throughout. We'll be presenting at the conference. Now let's dive in right into the reason why you're all connected today and you want to know more about Airmiles recommendation engine we call Precision. A bit of a reason why we have that and why we've built and developed, and we're not the only one. I think it speaks for itself that a customer expect timely and relevant offers, and that relevance is valuable business, because you can lose business if you're not relevant. If you don't send the offer at the right time, the right moment, and the right offer, You might lost valuable business. One, maybe not, but we're talking about millions of collectors, millions of offers that send across our collector base on the behalf of partners, and that's really where we want to make sure we're driving and moving the needle in the right direction and affecting engagement with the collectors and increasing sales for the partners. Precision, a bit more details. It's an AI-powered product recommendation enabling our marketers to engage with millions of customers and serving them a personalized product recommendation, and then with offers attached to that. It's powered under the hood with artificial intelligence. There's an ensemble of models working hand to hand in producing those recommendations. Less time and effort. Since it's been productionalized, we can quickly stand up and roll out Precision with partners. The scalability is whether you have 400 to 4 million customers, 700 to 700 product. It's scalable. It'll take it out. Whether, like I said, it can go up and down depending on our customers that we're trying to reach and the product we're looking to recommend. And at the end of the day, the objective of all of that is really to increase the ROI, making sure we get the biggest bang for our buck every time we invest in Precision. And this is the part of the conversation we'll have today. It's speaking about that. How do we measure that? How do we walk the talk when we come in with ROI and say Precision can drive ROI? Then we'll see how we measure that in a fair and non-biased method. Bit of a platform overview. So we have the audience. We need an audience. We need an offer bank with products and offers. Precision take those in and even allow us to incorporate some business rule depending on some of the context of the partners or business on which it's evolving. And then we take those once the recommendation are sent. We looked at those results. Sorry. And we measure and we adjust whether or not do we need to adjust the audience, do we need to adjust the offer bank, do we need to do both. So we always, it's not once it's done, flip the switch, it's on, it's running, and then we don't touch it. On the contrary, we keep making sure we tweaks along the way the engine, our audience, our offer selection, and making sure we're always driving as much result as we can. How it works? Well, we got customer, we got offer banks, we get rules. Those three pieces are fed in Precision, and Precision, with thanks to his ensemble of algorithm, works its magic and come up with recommendation per collectors, per customer, as you can see here. I spoke about the business rule, and this is when you look at the rules here, this is where some of the business rule can come in play in the type of offers you're looking to send out. Thank yous offers are offers. You could see that as you always buy the same product, and thank you for the valuable business, and thank you to being a valuable customer for us. We're going to give you something in exchange. Cross-sales offer, for the example, like I buy a lot of yogurt, never buy granola. Well, it might be interesting to buy granola. A new trials offer could be something along the line where I myself, as a behaviors or characteristics similar to other folks that buy a new carbonated water that came out, well, might be interesting to offer that carbonated water as an offer to myself. Precision, a bit more technical detail, as I said, recommendation, one-to-one product recommendation platform. I think we cannot stress that point enough. It's increased the probability of an offer being actioned by a collector. So this is really what we're trying to achieve here with Precision, helping the category manager to create an optimized offer. Really, instead of going in a more manual fashion, the engine help us really get those out quickly at the right person. Like I said a bit earlier, like the different types of offers, we can address a mix of business objective. It's maintain, cross-sell, upsell, new brand. Precision, as I said also earlier, is an ensemble algorithm combined with business rules, and some of those models are logistic regression, like response model, market basket analysis, collaborative filtering, and deep learning. So each of those come up with this set of recommendation, and then we looked at the different sets, the overlap. We include our business rule, and then we come up with our final short list, which is built from all the different algorithm included. So that's really the power of precision here. It doesn't sit on a single algorithm like you might think about good old collaborative filtering when we talk about recommendation engine. On the contrary, there's multiple working hand to hand and providing the best and the most relevant. The best here being the most relevant recommendation to collectors. So once those are created, generated, Precision did his work. We send those out for a week, 2 weeks. Those offers are eligible for collectors. We wait and we'll gather the information, get the sales data back, thanks to our partners sharing that with us. And once we have this, then this is where we jump in. My team will jump in and start measuring campaigns powered by Precision. I like that slide. This is I think it's a good summary of what we're trying to achieve. It spoiled a bit what I'm going to be speaking about, but I wanted to start with that as this is the end goal. This is the benefits we're out to measure. So it's really like see like the green line and our blue line, and explain a bit more those two lines and what they represent in the next few slides. We really want to make sure there's as distanced as possible, so the delta is as big as possible, because the more the delta is big, the more the blue line is above the green line, the more benefits we're getting out of the offers and the recommendation and the product we're sending out to collectors. So this is really what we're trying to achieve here. It's really making sure we can increase that gap as possible. And how do we measure that gap? Well, you might ask, our gold standard 2-point test versus control, methodology. Just before we go in, quick definition, might be obvious, but a targeted offer here, it's really an opportunity to increase an appeal to a selected audience via good and offer a service. For our case, it's an offer. And once we have that definition, then we can look at our measurement test versus control, because since it's a targeted, we can select an audience that we are going to be sending that offers only to those audience, and only those audience and those collectors will have access to the offers. And then we can take a control group via random allocation and look at that control group and that test group, and really the only difference between those two should be the test in which the treated groups will be exposed to. So it's really the only thing that should be different between those two groups is really the fact that one is going to be receiving an email with a bunch of really nice offers, and the other one won't receive anything for that campaign. And then we calculate the difference of sales during that period. Thanks to the 2-point measurement, we compare the sales difference between both at a collector level. Why 2 points? Well, like as I said, it's core to the concept, but with proper control group selection, it ensures that the measurement is of the change from the exposure outcome of the test. It's eliminating the difficulty of finding a clean pre-period. When we do clean pre versus post, that's another way to measure campaigns or effect of a test. It can get tricky when you try to find a clean pre-period with nothing, no campaign, no promotion, and there's a lot of noise going on. Sometimes it can get tricky. You might not find a big enough clean pre-period to be statistically significant after the fact. And it's an ease of understanding comprehension. It's fairly easy, and I hope I'll be able to achieve that ease of understanding and comprehension throughout the rest of that presentation. But before we dive right in and start gathering data and measuring our effects, just a quick observation we need to think of. It's not as easy as it seems to be. Like I like to making it easy, but mainly there's things we need to be thought a bit more in advance. Channel. Is there much channel? What's the deployment? The control group, again, core. We'll have a couple of slides explaining a bit more on how we build and leverage those control groups. Offer mechanism. Is there one? And when we look at the measurement, we make sure we remove outliers so we don't skew our averages or have impact on our numbers. Statistical significance, looking at whether or not change we're measuring is not due to due to random chance. Calculation and metric, then what we're going to be measuring on, incremental sales, ROI, and more. So whether we're at the deployment or at the overall universal group, both are built similarly. The only difference between a universal control groups and a campaign control groups, well, the universal is a group of collectors that we set aside that won't receive any communication for a year. In our campaign control group, well, it's a group we set aside that won't receive the communication of the current campaign we're looking to deploy. But both will be using the same concept to be built, which is stratified random sampling. Why stratified? Well, it's a bit, if we can have a good representation of each subgroup of our audience within our population, then we'll have an even more representative sample. But each of those subgroup, we make sure we sample randomly within that group. So there's as much chance in the group to be part of the control group as anyone within that subgroup. So we make sure, like in the example here, the red represent close to half of our population. Well, half of our population, in fact, would represent half of our sample, and then a quarter of the blue and a quarter of the green, and then we randomly pick within those group, and we create a sample. And how do we create those stratified? Well, there's another way to do so. Most of the time on our side, we'll be leveraging our segmentation. We have segmentation in place with if not all of our partners, and then we use that as a proxy to create those different strats. Well, you could come up with other data attributes that are relevant and want to make sure, and that's something that should be the same when applied on a control and the universal control group, because if you don't apply the same data attributes when creating those strats, then it might get, you might not be looking at the exact same representativeness of the universal and campaign control groups. So once we have those groups, they're defined, they exist, they're set aside. The universal is set aside for a year, the campaign is set aside for the campaign. So how those groups leverage? How do we leverage a universal versus the campaign group? So let's say we have N campaign from 1, 2, all the way down. We have our test, our control for each of those campaigns throughout the time, let's say for a full year, for example. So each of those we measure with 2 points methodology. We have a control and a test. For campaign 1, we have our result. 2, we have our result, and we have our results. So that's allows us to look at a bit more tactical level and make sure and look a bit more during that campaign, what worked, what didn't work. Do we need to adjust the audience, the offers, offer bank along the way? Do we need to do some tweaks? Is there other macro factor that might have impacted too? So during the campaign, seasonality and others. So looking at that a bit more tactical fashion, we can look from campaign to campaign how things are going up and down, hopefully always up or always in the right direction. And then when we look and say how our strategy work, how do we have precision, we rolled it out, it's been working for a year. How does on the longer term, on the longer time horizon, how does precision works, how the whole program is performing? And this is where our universal control groups jumps into action, where we take each of the collectors within our test. So each of the collector within our test groups, we get those aside as a big test group, and then we compare those against our universal control. So we capture the sales for a year, 6 months. I don't know how long we want to measure the effect of our strategy. That would be depending on the frequency of which we're sending those email powered by precision on a monthly basis, bi-weekly basis. So then you adjust the frequency, the length of the campaign you're going to be measuring, the length of the universal effect you're going to be measuring. And then you do a 2-point methodology. That's it. As simple as that. So that way it's the same method, but the way with but one slightly difference with the universal control group when we capture all of that is we're looking at measuring our campaign deploy, but also include some of the halo effect. So we're looking at sales over a longer period of time, so we can see if our strategy on the long run is really changing the is really moving the needle in the right direction. But not only when there's campaign, it's we want to see and we want to prove and we want to measure the effect that it's moving in the right direction. It's slight incrementals, but each campaign goes in the right direction. So it incorporates longer trailing effect of the targeted that receiving those targeted product offers has on both responder and non-responder, because it might not have responded in a campaign, but that doesn't mean that doesn't triggered you in responding to the next one, or just going in and buying a little bit more because you saw all those great products even though you didn't have the time to take advantage of the promotion when it was in the market. And then, thanks to those control group, we can build the initial chart I presented a couple of minutes ago. So we can really look at promo 1, 2, and 3, the control groups. We can leverage, after that, the global control group to really measure on the full year, as an example, and each of the promo can be measured against their own control groups. And if you want to, if we stop sending emails, we can always look at also if there's any post-strategy lift coming in thanks to control groups. We can look at our test universe, even though we don't send anything, all of those, how they compare. Did we have that longer lasting effect? Did it stays? And once we've measured the campaign, what do we do? What do we report on and how? First of all, response mechanism, collector targeted, and who bought at least one product by precision. We're going to be measuring incremental sales using the whole test group, not only responder. Responder by definition are going to be biased towards. So if we provide responder metric, those are purely descriptive statistics. And we also provide some SKU level information and descriptive metrics in terms of unit sold, responder, targeted collectors, and response rate. I'll have an example in the next two slides talking about. So we'll look at our sales per collectors, and thanks to those sales per collectors, and we can look at incrementals at the collector level, and then we can expand the results and compare both and see how much we drove here. Like for example, here we drove on average 4% sales per collectors. We drove a 14% lift in incremental sales here of about $4, close to $5. And then we have financials also, the cost of the campaign, and thanks to that we can calculate in an ROI and come up with an ROI of the program, of the whole deployment, of that specific deployment, or on the longer term too, if how much ROI are we getting at. The presentation, there's different ways we can look at it, and the first way we do so, a presentation, good old PowerPoint, reviewing overall campaign performance, delivered in person, executive summary and recommendation. I don't think it's nothing new here in what we do, and all of us. There's one-pagers, shared manually at the campaign level, mostly automated. But where we're at right now is self-serve online at the campaign level and fully automated. This is the automated dashboard, and this is even evolving a step further in the automated space with Panorama that I'll be speaking in a few minutes. Quick example of the automated dashboard. As you can see, we have our descriptive responder metric. We have a quick overview of the deployment, the responder, the open and then response rate. Then we have our this is the power, and this is exactly here we have our control groups in action for the campaign. So we really do a two-point methodology, but we're able to break it down and have what we call a DCOM3, and we're looking at from the incremental sales where that lift is coming from. Is it due to the fact here it's the fact that both there's an expected more collectors, sales increased, basket increased, visit per collector, but where it is interesting when we look at the basket, well, we see unit per visit went down a little bit, but was overcompensated by sales per unit. So the overall effect of the basket size is lift versus control. So thanks to that, we can see where some of the impact might be coming from and where some cancel the other, and then overall we're positive lift here. When we look at an example of an automated dashboard product section, where we look at see each row will be representing a product, a SKU. We have the name, the category, maybe the bonus amount that was against that, and then we have after that targeted responder, transaction quantity to response rate. Response rate is interesting, but you cannot just at the product level put the response rate by itself, because you need to make sure you're you're looking at the targeted end responder. If it was a smaller group or a bigger group, some product might be less recommended. They're a bit more niche, but there's still folks interested in it. You can see there's other products that are a bit more common across our collectors. So that give some good information on what product I was interested, and then we can have more conversation around why or why not. We can explore a bit more with partners and understanding what happened here. Yeah. And that evolution, that automated dashboard, some of you might recognize sits in Tableau, but we're taking that to the next step. We're Panorama is Airmouse reporting evolution next up. It's fast insights, better decision. Panorama is a simplified, unified analytic and insight platform enabled by best-in-class technology. We want to make sure that we have now more and more, we have invested in our technology stack, and that comes up as Panorama. Now we're able to build product, data product as Panorama in place. And what is Panorama? Well, it's two aspects of it. It's Airmouseai, which is the one that's going to be of interest for the rest of the conversation, for the rest of the time. And it's data sharing platform. So it's really a dashboarding platform polished for data visualization or raw data to be embedded in your data marketing ecosystem. So Panorama enabled those two capabilities. But today we'd be looking at Airmouseai. What is Airmouseai, you ask? Well, it's an easy access to our dashboarded report through the new Airmouseai. So this is something you go in Airmouseai. Thanks to SSO and the investment we made, we can connect to your SSO, to our partner SSO, and that way it's really easy to manage security, authentication in the platform, whether folks are coming in and out of the organization. All of that is handled through SSO, and it's seamless. So we can go in, type in, you connect, you don't have to remember any additional email. You type in your email, you get connected, and then thanks to now Looker is the platform that will be powering our data visualization within Airmouseai. You can go in, check your results, drag and drop. You have access to some of the capabilities of tooltips, filtering. You can play around with it, and you can have access to that either on your computer or on your mobile phone. That's the power, and this is the next step of us even making that even more easier accessible for our partners to look at their campaign results, KPI monthly reports, and more. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I hope I've delivered. I hope I showed you how measuring our performance campaign are at Airmouse. Appreciate the time you took to listening to me. Have a good day, and hopefully we'll meet in this small world that is AI and big data in the country.